as old as time. You need help from me. One phone got nice screen, the other got 860. Poco versus Redmi.
For my money, two of the most exciting smartphones to launch in 2021 isn't at the high end. It's actually these two phones, the Poco X3 Pro and the Redmi Note 10 Pro. And the reason is because you can actually make like a very good argument that either of these smartphones are the best phones to buy for under 1,000 ringgit. But what makes them interesting is that they're fundamentally different smartphones. So which one do you buy? Which one do you spend your hard-earned money on? Oh, that's what I'm here to help you find out. And we'll start as usual with the performance. Looking at the on-paper specs, there is a clear winner here. You see, while the Redmi Note 10 Pro features a respectable Snapdragon 732 processor with up to 8 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of UFS 2.2 internal storage, the Poco X3 Pro is almost in a different league. At its core, the Poco is powered by the brand new Snapdragon 860 processor. Now, if you're unfamiliar, this chip is basically a Snapdragon 855 Plus with a new name. I mean, they seem to share exactly the same specs and even, they have the same product page on Qualcomm's website. But from a performance standpoint, that's not a bad thing because the Snapdragon 855 Plus was at the heart of some of the most powerful gaming phones in 2019, and 2019 wasn't that long ago. The Poco X3 Pro also comes with up to 256 gigs of UFS 3.1 internal storage instead. Now that's both more at the top spec and also at a faster standard. So theoretically, the Poco X3 Pro should blow the Redmi Note 10 Pro out of the water, right? Well, for me, it was honestly not as big of a difference as I initially thought. When it comes to day-to-day usage, I honestly didn't notice a big difference. Like, both of these phones were smooth and responsive when launching apps or browsing through, stuff like social media. Just a disclaimer though, these two units that I have with me, they aren't actually the same spec because the Redmi has 8 gigs of RAM while the Poco X3 Pro has 6 gigs of RAM. But, considering like the processor and the faster storage, I don't think like that extra 2 gigs of RAM will really give the Redmi Note 10 Pro like a huge advantage in anything but multitasking, but I'll just let you know. So while they were like very similar in like normal day-to-day stuff, when it came to gaming, I thought that would be, there would be absolutely no competition between the two devices. But even here, well, I was surprised at the results. Both the Poco X3 Pro and the Redmi Note 10 Pro ran Asphalt 9 at max settings pretty much identically. They both put up good frames and a smooth gaming experience even after about an hour on the game. It was only when I switched over to Genshin Impact that I started seeing a difference. The Poco had far fewer instances of dropping frames than the Redmi at 60 FPS max settings with motion blur turned off. That being said, I would still call the Redmi's experience playable even at that graphical setting. But when I kicked the graphics settings down to like medium or like high, something lower than the highest one lah, the whole overall experience was, I would say, good. Both smartphones also handled their cooling pretty well. During my hour-plus testing session with each phone, I didn't notice any thermal throttling or degradation in performance. However, the Poco X3 Pro did feel a little bit hotter to the touch than the Redmi Note 10 Pro did. One aspect of performance I was unfortunately unable to test properly was the battery life because, I don't really have that much time with these devices. But, I will say that both of these devices feature large batteries that are over 5,000 milliamp hours, and considering the configuration, I believe that they will at least provide all-day battery life. Plus, they both also support 33-watt fast wired charging via USB-C, which is always appreciated. And on top of that, you also get the 33-watt fast charging brick included in the box for both of these phones, so you don't have to buy another charger. So while there's definitely a difference between the performance for the Poco X3 Pro and the Redmi Note 10 Pro, the difference wasn't as big as I thought it was going to be. But I will note that I am not like a hardcore gamer, so if out and out performance is really all that you're looking for, then okay, maybe go for the Poco X3 Pro because it definitely has that extra oomph. But I'm also saying that the Redmi Note 10 Pro isn't actually a slouch. In fact, if you're not a hardcore gamer, I actually think like the Redmi Note 10 Pro might be more up your alley because of its display. While the Poco X3 Pro may have thrown the first punch in the performance department, this is where the Redmi Note 10 Pro comes right back with a right hook of its own. Both phones feature 6.67-inch 120Hz Full HD Plus displays, but the one on the X3 Pro is an LCD panel, while the one on the Redmi Note 10 Pro is an AMOLED panel. And the difference in viewing experience is palpable. The Redmi Note 10 Pro screen just looks so much nicer to me. It has, way more contrast, way nicer colors, and it also gets much brighter than the Poco X3 Pro screen. Side by side, the Poco X3 Pro's otherwise serviceable display looks completely washed out, like, it shouldn't even be at the same price point. This alone makes the Redmi Note 10 Pro way more desirable for someone who watches a lot of shows or content on their smartphone. I would also say that the Redmi Note 10 Pro has slightly better stereo speakers, but the gap here isn't that big.
A brand new one that actually looks very familiar, but in both a good way and a bad way, is this one, the Poco X3 Pro. Alright, so the Poco X3 Pro, you may be familiar with the Poco X3 NFC, that video. I think I did a video about that. It was my review of the X3 NFC, and I think that's like my most disliked video in the history of my videos. I don't know why.
Plus, both smartphones have 3.5mm headphone jacks, so you can easily stick a pair of wired headphones in to upgrade your audio experience. So, if we're keeping score right now, both of these phones have scored 1 point each, but if I had to give like an overall advantage to one device, it would be the Redmi Note 10 Pro, because I think that the difference in screen is bigger than the difference in performance. And moving on to the next segment of our comparison, which is the cameras, I thought that the Redmi Note 10 Pro would just like run away with this victory. But the results of the comparison was surprising, to say the least. The Redmi Note 10 Pro and Poco X3 Pro have quad camera systems at the back that are incredibly similar in function, but there is a difference in the sensors. Poco opted for a 48-megapixel wide camera, an 8-megapixel ultra-wide camera, a 2-megapixel macro camera, and a 2-megapixel depth sensor. The Redmi, on the other hand, packs a 108-megapixel wide camera instead, and also upgrades the macro shooter to a 5-megapixel macro camera instead. The other two remain the same. Despite the huge disparity in resolution, the images captured by these cameras are surprisingly similar. In daylight, I didn't see a big difference in detail or clarity between the two. Both of them performed very similarly in dynamic range, giving you a very serviceable camera experience. The biggest difference, however, is in the white balance, where the Redmi has a bit of a green tint, while the Poco opts for like a cooler tone overall. Image quality also remains similar across the zoom range without either pulling out ahead. And this is surprising to me because I thought that, like, with the higher resolution, 108 megapixels on the Redmi, you would get more detail, but it looks like no difference. When the going gets dark though, these phones still trade blows all day. In some scenes, the Poco is noticeably sharper than the Redmi, but in others, it's the other way around, so I don't even know anymore. One thing to note on the night mode for both of these smartphones is that the Poco supports night mode on both the wide and the ultra wide, but the image quality, even with night mode on from the ultra wide camera in low light, it's so bad that I would just avoid it. What was surprising to me, however, was that the Redmi Note 10 Pro has a much wider selfie camera than the Poco X3 Pro, so I guess if you're into taking a lot of group selfies, then the Redmi has the advantage lah. But yeah, beyond that, both of these smartphones have good cameras for their price, though, like I said again, I'm surprised. I thought the 108 megapixel camera would definitely pull ahead of the Poco here, but I guess the lesson here is little kids, gather around, let me just tell you. Megapixels don't tell the whole story. Okay, before we move on to the verdict where I tell you which phone to buy, there are a couple of things that I want to touch on. One thing I didn't mention when I was talking about the display is the fact that the Poco X3 Pro screen is actually protected by Corning's Gorilla Glass 6, while the Redmi Note 10 Pro only gets Gorilla Glass 5. But does that mean that you can drop the Poco more times than you can drop the Redmi Note 10 Pro? In general, I wouldn't recommend that you go and try or find out because, at the end of the day, glass is glass, and glass will break. However, if we're talking about how each device feels in the hand, I do have to give the edge to the Redmi Note 10 Pro. It definitely feels more well put together, even though both devices are still built to a budget. The Redmi feels more expensive, more dense, and less plasticky to the touch. Even the little touch of curving the side-mounted fingerprint scanner to, match the frame is something that you don't usually see at this price point. A fact that is abundantly clear when you look at the Poco X3 Pro. The Redmi also has a triple slot SIM tray, so you can do the full Monty of 2 SIM cards and a microSD card without sacrificing one or the other. The Poco will force you to choose because it only comes with a hybrid SIM tray, unfortunately. But for you table typists over there, I think you'll appreciate the Poco X3 Pro a little bit more because the camera bump is it's more well balanced, whereas the gargantuan camera bump on the Redmi Note 10 Pro, it's all on one side only, so that means, yeah, it's pretty much wobble city over here. Okay, with that housekeeping out of the way, it's time to move on to the final section. Which phone to buy? Okay, so when I first saw the launch of these smartphones, I immediately knew that this choice between these two was gonna be really difficult because these are two really good smartphones for the price, but they are both really good in their own way. So, tough choice. Now, I want to say that the extra performance in the Poco X3 Pro is only for hardcore gamers, but in the long run, history has taught us that a flagship processor will probably stay smoother for a longer period of time. And if you're planning to keep your smartphone for 3 to 4 years, that could be the difference between a usable phone and a laggy mess. But at the same time, if the Poco X3 Pro's screen already looks outdated today, can you imagine what it would look like several years down the line? But it's okay. It's okay. In the process of making this video, I have come to a conclusion. So come, let Rory Coco help you. For most people, and even the casual gamers out there, I would recommend that you buy the Redmi Note 10 Pro. I think that the screen is just such a big upgrade over the Poco X3 Pro that it has become the deciding factor in my comparison. Because a nice screen isn't just for people who watch movies, you know, a nice screen, it affects everything you do on a smartphone. And even in gaming, you know, I found myself enjoying the Redmi more because everything just looks so much better on the AMOLED panel. Plus, it's not like the Snapdragon 732 is like a terrible, really slow processor at all. It's actually good, and I think that, you know, for most of the people who will be buying smartphones like these, I think that they would be very happy with the performance. So even in that department, you know, it's not like a monumental downgrade. But if all you really want is, you know, out and out performance and, you know, potential future-proofing, whatever that means, then the Poco X3 Pro is also a great buy. Even the 1,299 ringgit version, because, you know, it has 256 gigs of onboard storage. That's valuable. Plus, the Poco is also a solid all-rounder. It's just that the LCD screen and the build makes the phone feel just a little bit dated right now. So yeah, my winner for this comparison is the Redmi Note 10 Pro. But you know, you can feel free to disagree with me in the comments section below, because I think that at the end of the day, you know, whichever of these smartphones you choose to buy, you know, you're going to be getting a really good, well-rounded smartphone. And especially at, you know, the base models with that's priced at, you know, 999 ringgit, I think that like these are definitely the cream of the crop when it comes to around this price point. So I don't think you'll be upset either way. But yeah, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I'm sorry it took so long to make another comparison video. There were just so many other phones and you know lah. Okay, so if you do want to see me compare some other phone though, make sure you leave that in the comments section below and I will see if I can make that happen. But yeah, which would you pick? Which is your winner? Poco X3 Pro or Redmi Note 10 Pro? Also, how was my singing out of 5 stars? Can I join the voice? Let me know that in the comment section below too. Before I go though, let me just respond to some of your comments from one of my previous videos, okay? Oh! Hi, didn't see you there. Was just listening to the new Jabra Elite 85T and they've got an impressive feature list. They've got ANC with a dedicated chip to more efficiently drown out surrounding noise so you can enjoy your music better. They also feature a semi-open design with natural hear-through when you need it. And they'll last up to 25 hours with ANC turned on. But the best part, if you want one of these, you won't even need to buy them because we will be giving one pair away. So just leave a comment on this video to be in the running. More details in the description box below. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna get back to this. Okay, so these comments come from the Huawei Mate Station S unboxing and hands-on. That's a very cool video, I think. Personally, you know, I may be a bit biased, but yeah, alright, let's choose some comments. Sheila Mariz says, "Thank you for this review. I was about to buy it, but then I had second thoughts. Thank you again and stay safe, everyone." That's what I do. I give people second thoughts. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, you know. Glenn Tech Review says, "I bought this desktop and waiting for delivery. I don't have high expectations for gaming, but I wish I don't get too restricted with its upgrade potential." I don't know, man. If you want to upgrade, it's gonna be susah lah. Because, like I said, I think the worst thing that I found is not even like the size of the tower, but it's like the fact that the power supply is like, I don't see the extra cables. Like, I don't know where you're gonna get the extra power from. Like, I don't even see how you're gonna swap out the PSU with a different one. But you know, if you figure it out, let me know that in the comment section below too. Justin Leong says, "Can you open up and show us the motherboard to see the upgrade opportunity so that we don't have to risk buying and void our warranty? You know, turning it into a gaming machine by adding graphic card." Bro, you go watch the video or not? I literally open it. There's like so much mural of the inside of the case. Like, what are you watching? But yeah, Alex give you the timestamp already. It's about 7 minutes 56 seconds. So you go back and watch that one, okay? Next time, watch the video first before you leave comment, okay? Otherwise, don't leave comment. Don't even bother. Hey! Okay, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Rory, and if you want to see more videos, you make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are very close to 100,000. You can also like us on Facebook. You can like this video, but our home on the internet will always be at soychinchan.com. So I will see you in the next video. That's it for this one. End already. All good things must come to an end. And that includes this video. Okay? Bye-bye.